Does it feel like hard work? Like even just thinking about it is making your head spin? If you're stuck with that goal around fitness, study, writing a book, creative content, building a business, and frankly, any initiative, well then, what I'm about to share with you in this video is going to blow your mind. Researchers found that the secret to optimal performance lies in your ability to enter the state of flow, also known as the zone, and to do it frequently and deliberately. In this video, I'll dive deep into what the flow state and the zone actually are, because they are real states of our mind and in our brain. I'll tell you everything that you need to know about flow from the perspective of neuroscience, psychology, and something from the ancient philosophers. In this video, I'm going to share exactly what is flow, what are the conditions for activating flow, how do you know when you're in the flow state, what misconceptions are there about being in the zone, and what to expect when you're setting out to find your flow. But if you want to know exactly how to get in the zone, then check out my other video called The Flow Formula, How to Get in the Zone. Think about the time when you were so engrossed in what you were doing that everything else faded into the background. Time either stretched or shrunk, or it just felt suspended in timelessness. Your concerns and worries disappeared for a bit. Your focus was unwavering in what you were doing, undistracted.
Now I'm going to show you a few touches, but at the end of the day, this is a game of focus.
And that is the state of flow. That's being in the zone. Flow is a state of absorption, of perfect focus, where you're not even consciously thinking about things or processing moment by moment, says neuroscientist and athlete Brett Vincherier. He calls it a state of relaxed high performance. Flow state is a term coined by the positive psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. He conducted clinical studies on flow and found that flow is being completely involved in an activity for its own sake. The ego falls away, time flies, every action, movement, and thought follows inevitably from the previous, just like playing jazz. Your whole being is involved and you're using your skills to the utmost. Chinese Taoist philosophy calls the state of flow the Wu Wei, a paradoxical state of action, of non-action, and effortless action. It's a state of singular focus that is known in Sanskrit as ekagrata. There's a wonderful story about being in the flow state in the Mahabharata. The story features the master warrior Arjun, who was said to be the greatest of all archers of his time. His teacher Dronacharya once asked all his students to take turns to shoot a bird sitting in a nearby tree. Everyone aimed at the bird with their arrows and missed, except Arjun. While Arjun was setting up his aim, his teacher asked him, "What do you see? Do you see the tree?" "No," said Arjun. "Do you see the branch?" "No." "Well, what do you see?" Arjun replied, "I only see the eye of the bird." Being fully present, concentrated on an activity with singular focus is the first characteristics for getting in the zone, according to Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. The second is that you're clear about your goal and its outcome. The third requirement to achieve flow is to ensure that you are in that sweet spot between the challenge level of your activity and your own skill level. It's a constant balancing act between anxiety, where the difficulty level is too high for the person's skill, and boredom, where the difficulty is too low, Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi says. For peak performance, you do need to get outside your comfort zone, but still stay within the bounds of what's attainable for you. The fourth condition that allows flow is being open to feedback about what's working and what's not working in your process. Csikszentmihalyi found that instant feedback helps to align our awareness and attention. When I was writing my book Karma and Diamonds, I would pass everything that I wrote that day through my first line editor, who would tell me if what I'd written was engaging, flowing, and inspiring. Often he'd come back and say it was utter rubbish, and I'd have to start all over again. Stephen Kotler, the author of The Rise of Superhuman, Decoding the Science of Ultimate Human Performance, says, "Clear goals tell us what we're doing. Immediate feedback tells us how to do it better." The fifth condition to activate the state of flow is to calm the activity of your rational mind so that your actions and your awareness can work in synchronicity. does it actually feel like when you're inside the flow state? There are 6 signs that you're in the zone, and it looks something like this. You lose yourself in what you're doing. You're absorbed in what you're doing, and time seems altered. Time flies or slows down. You have a sense of being in control of what you're doing. Your action and your awareness merge into one. Being in the zone feels deeply rewarding, and you experience effortlessness and ease in what you're doing. Now that said, there are some misconceptions about flow that you should be aware of. One misconception is that flow is only possible for athletes, artists, musicians, and writers. Another is that the state of flow only happens once or twice in our lives. Another fallacy is that flow is always enjoyable and that flow is easy and automatic. Flow is a passive state where things happen automatically without effort. And I like this one the best. Flow is some mystical or spiritual state. It's none of these. The reality is that flow actually requires active engagement and focused attention. Although flow is often associated with feelings of joy and pleasure, it can also feel uncomfortable and challenging. This is because it pushes you outside of your comfort zone. Flow can actually be experienced in any activity as long as that activity is challenging and requires focused attention. Achieving flow is not always easy or automatic. To get in the state of flow regularly, you do have to learn to overcome distractions and obstacles. There's no doubt that the art of having effort feel effortless is in itself something that you have to practice. If you want to perform at peak in any area, if you want to tap into the zone of genius, whether you do it consciously or you stumble on it, you do need to be able to enter the flow state sooner or later. It's like anything that you want to do well in life. It takes active practice. Now, here are some things that you should watch out for if you want to get in the zone. Studies have found that boredom, apathy, anxiety, worry, self-doubt, and self-criticism kill flow. What have scientific studies found about the state of flow and being in the zone? I mentioned earlier that one of the requirements to activate the state of flow is to calm the activity of your rational mind so that your actions and your awareness can actually work together. When your mind actually calms down, scientists call this less active prefrontal cortex of the brain transient hyperfrontality. The main finding here is that once you can calm down the activity of the prefrontal cortex, you are then able to enter into a state of flow. Other areas of the brain are then allowed to take over, freeing us up temporarily from processes such as self-consciousness and self-talk, and lead us into that relaxed, creative state. But the neuroscientist and athlete, said, when you're first learning an activity, everything lights up in the frontal lobe of the brain. As you become an expert, then that activity actually goes down. It gets moved into the subconscious. And that's when you can do something without having to think so much about what you're doing. In other words, you're in your flow. As you step into the flow state, there are a series of things that happen in the brain, the body, and the mind. It's been found that the state of flow is a combination of optimal being and optimal doing. There are 4 phases in the flow cycle that initially require that we step out of our comfort zone and challenge our sense of self. The first phase is the struggle phase, where you experience tension, frustration, and even stress and anxiety as the brain in beta wave state releases cortisol and norepinephrine. The second part of the cycle is the release phase. With the brain now in alpha wave state, we take on the challenge by stepping away from the problem and switching on the parasympathetic nervous system. The third is the flow phase. This is when you go from conscious to subconscious processing, aided by theta and gamma brain waves and bursts of copious amounts of dopamine, endorphins, and Anandamide. There's something that I find fascinating about Anandamide. Anandamide is a neurotransmitter that's been dubbed the Bliss molecule and was so called after the Sanskrit word for bliss, Ananda. The state of Anand is something that the sages and philosophers of ancient India have been talking about ad infinitum in their texts for thousands of years. The fourth and final phase of the flow cycle is the recovery phase, where the brain enters into delta waves and releases serotonin and oxytocin. This is where our brain rewires and stores the experience of flow. Why does being in the state of flow make us feel so good? Precisely because a unique cocktail of performance-enhancing neurochemicals that include norepinephrine, dopamine, anandamide, serotonin, endorphins surge through our brain and are amplified by theta and gamma brainwaves, says Stephen Kotler. In a brilliantly researched article by Beata Sudis published in Positive Psychology, she says these highly addictive feel-good chemicals fuel intrinsic motivation and tighten our focus and pattern recognition. We process more information from different areas of the brain and link it faster. As if it's not enough to simply bliss out on these happy hormones and chemicals, being in the mental flow state also promotes intuition as we access vivid imagery and information beyond our normal conscious awareness. As promised at the beginning, I've told you everything that you need to know about the state of flow and why it's really worth developing the skill to step into the zone again and again. It'll truly transform not just the results that you produce, but it's also the state to experience bliss. Check out my other video that shows you exactly how to activate the flow state and to get in the zone. I hope you got value from this video, and if you have, please help me in my relationship with YouTube's algorithm by liking, commenting, and sharing this video with anyone that you know who wants to be happy and productive. And leave me a comment and let me know, when were you last in the zone and what were you doing? Thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.